chapter 9. And it came to pass, when Solomon had finished the building of the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all Solomon's delight which he was pleased to do, that the Lord appeared to Solomon the second time, as he had appeared unto him in Gibeon. And the Lord said unto him, I have heard your prayer, and your supplication that you have made before me. I have hallowed this house which you have built, to put my name there forever, and mine eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. And as for you, if you wilt walk before me as David your father walked, in integrity of heart, and in uprightness to do according to all that I have commanded you, and wilt keep my statutes and my ordinances, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom over Israel forever, according as I promised to David your father, saying, There shall not fail you a man upon the throne of Israel. But if you shall turn away from following me, you and your children, and not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have set before you, but shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have hallowed for my name will I cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all peoples. And this house which is so high shall become desolate, and every one that passeth it by shall be astonished, and shall hiss. And when they shall say, Why hath the Lord done this unto the land and to this house? They shall be answered, Because they forsook the Lord their God, who brought forth their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore hath the Lord brought all this evil upon them. And it came to pass at the end of 20 years, wherein Solomon had built the two houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house. Now Hiram, the king of Tyre, had furnished Solomon with cedar trees and cypress trees, and with gold, according to all his desire. That then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. And Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they pleased him not. And he said, What cities are these which you have given me, my brother? And they were called the land of Kabul until this day. And Hiram sent to the king 60 talents of gold. And this is the account of the levy which King Solomon raised to build the house of the Lord, and his own house, and Millo, and the wall of Jerusalem, and Hazor, and Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh king of Egypt had gone up, and taken Gezer, and burned it with fire, and slain the Canaanites that dwelt in the city, and given it for a portion unto his daughter Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Gezer, and Beth-horon the nether, and Baalath, and Tadmor, in the wilderness in the land, and all the store cities that Solomon had, and the cities of his chariots, and the cities of his horsemen, and that which Solomon desired to build for his pleasure in Jerusalem, and in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. And all the people that were left of the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and who were not of the children of Israel, even their children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel were not able to utterly to destroy of them, did Solomon raise a levy of bondservants unto this day. But of the children of Israel did Solomon make no bondservants, but they were the men of war, and his servants, and his princes, and his captains, and rulers of his chariots, and of his horsemen. These were the chief officers that were over Solomon's work, 550. Who bore rule over the people that wrought in the work. But Pharaoh's daughter came up out of the city of David unto her house which Solomon had built for her. Then did he build Millo. And 3 times in a year did Solomon offer burnt offerings and peace offerings upon the altar which he built unto the Lord, offering thereby upon the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the house. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Etzion-Geber, which is beside Elo, on the shore of the Reed Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir, and fetched from there gold 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon. Okay, let's go back to verse 1. Now, we'll remember yesterday, or the last chapter, that we made an end of building Solomon's house and the house of God. And now today we are just going to elaborate a little bit about that and see. Of course, to build anything, it costs money. It costs. Somebody has to pay for all the labor. Somebody has to pay for all the building materials. And all these things, they have to be paid for. And we're going to find out. Now, Solomon, he was quite the builder. And verse 1, and it came to pass, when Solomon had finished the building of the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all that Solomon's delight, which he was pleased to do. So, Solomon now has finished building his house, the king's house, which took him 13 years, and he's finished building the house of the Lord, which took him 7 years. That the Lord appeared to Solomon the second time, as he had appeared unto him at Gibeon. So God appears to Solomon again. Verse 2, witness this. And God appears to Solomon like he did in Gibeon. We remember Gibeon. Gibeon is that high place, and it's that real high place that they made for themselves, this altar that was there. And he's appeared to him the second time. Again, God says, witness this. Now, witness. God wants you to witness this real good. 3, and the Lord said unto him, I have heard your prayer and your supplication that you have made before me. I have hallowed this house which you have built, to put my name there forever. And mine eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. So God's telling Solomon, he's saying, oh, I have heard your prayer, and I've heard what you said. He says, now, and I have taken this house that you have built, and I have set it aside for a special purpose. I have hallowed it. See, I have accepted it. And my heart's going to be there perpetually, and my eyes are going to be on it. 4, and as for you, if you wilt walk before me, as David your father walked in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and mine ordinances. 5, then will I establish the throne of your kingdom over Israel forever, according as I promised to David your father, saying, there shall not fail you a man upon the throne of Israel. So, once again, we have this little qualifier, this little 2-letter word, if you will walk before me, as David your father walked in integrity of heart. David wasn't a perfect man. David sinned. And when David realized his sin, though, he quickly turned to God. He knew God was going to punish him. But he turned to God and threw himself on God's mercy. See? And if he had to be punished, he would choose the punishment of God. But what he's saying, God's saying, if you will, you and your sons after you, because this is the sign, this is the witness, see? Do your children follow after you? Do they obey the commandments of God? Do they follow the law of their father? 6, but if you shall turn away from following me, you or your children, and not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have set before you, but shall go serve other gods and worship them. What? If you will turn. Now, God's warning them. Just like God warned Israel, see, in Deuteronomy, when they come up out of this land of Egypt, this second generation, when this second generation, see, the first generation utterly refused God. They were sent back to the wilderness. It was the second generation, see, and they come up now. Witness this. And what happened when they went in to take over the promised land? Well, we're going to find out in just a few verses. They didn't do what God said, see. Then will I cut off 7 Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have hallowed for my name will I cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all the people. Well, we hear what he's going to do if they don't follow his commandments and his statutes and his ordinances. He's going to cut them off. See, where? What is he going to cut off? This house which he has hallowed, this house which he has set aside to put his name there. See, he's going to allow you now. God's bending. He never asked for none of this, but he's suffering you. Why? Because they don't understand God. They don't understand the entire purpose of the Word. So God's got to make an example now to show you just what he means by the law. 8. And this house, which is so high, shall become desolate, and every one that passeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss, and they shall say, Why hath the Lord done thus unto the land, and to this house? And we're going to find out why he did it. We're going to find out that, see, just like when they come out of Egypt, see, like a wheel, like a little circular time loop going around, God's going to set a marker now. This is the new beginning. See, we're going to start all over now with this new king, with this little deal you've got. See, but we're going to find out what happens. He's warning us what's going to happen, because he done knows how men's hearts are, and he's trying to tell you now. God's only going to tell you so many times. Then he's going to be just like it was to the children of Israel. He's to tell you now, these 10 times, see, have you angered the Lord? And he sent them back into the wilderness, see, and they would never see the promised land. We don't want that to happen. See, God's trying to teach us these things and bring us around. And he's going to bring you around. He's going to bring you by the way you should come. 9, they shall be answered. Well, they're going to answer them when they say, Why has the Lord done this unto this land, unto this house, unto this magnificent place, this great temple? They shall be answered, because they forsook the Lord their God, who brought forth their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and laid a hold on other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore hath the Lord brought all this evil upon them. Why? Because they served other gods. It's all about idolatry. It's all about God getting the credit. It's all about God, who's done all this work, who's done these things, who gave you the law for your own good, this fiery law that all knowledge and understanding comes through, and told you the day he give it to you that it was. We're going to find out this is exactly what happens in the end time, see. They go chasing after all these other gods. They don't understand. They've been scattered in all the parts of the world. They don't know who they are. They've lost their heritage. God has caused them to forget. They've been caused to sleep and slumber. They've drank of the wrath of God now, and they serve these other gods. This is what's going on. And they consider it not, because they never considered the end of this great house which they built. And we're going to find it out. The prophets are going to teach us all this. 10, and it came to pass at the end of 20 years, wherein Solomon had built the 2 houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house. Now, at the end of this 20 years, at the end, now, redemption has understanding. Now witness these 2 houses. 2, because there's 2 houses. 2, because there's 2 contenders. Now Hiram, the king of Tyre, had furnished Solomon, 11, with cedar trees and cypress trees and with gold, according to all his desire, that the king Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. And so we remember now, Hiram, he sent these hewers of wood and all this, and they cut all this great forest down to build not only the house of God, but the king's house as well, which was all made of cedar and cypress trees. All that the king wanted, Hiram gave. And Solomon gave him now 20 cities in the land of Galilee. And these 20 cities now is redemption. And a city is any place that has a guard. Any place that has a guard is considered a city. And this land of Galilee, Galilee is a rolling wheel. Now, we've spoke about this rolling wheel, and that's what God's trying to tell you. You're on a rolling wheel, and there's a marker He's put on that marker, on that wheel, so that we can identify where we're at. And Hiram came out of Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they pleased him not. So Hiram, these of nobility, that these ones that have made their place of nobility for themselves, he's come out of Tyre, out of the rock, and he's seen these cities that Solomon's gave him, and he's not real happy with them at all. 13, and he said, What cities are these which you have given me, my brother? And they called them the land of Kabul unto this day. And Kabul means bindings, fetters, something to restrain you with. 14, and Hiram sent to the king 60 talents of gold. So Hiram now has sent Solomon some more gold, and these 60 talents, or 620 talents of gold, 6 being the labor of man, 6 days shalt thou do the work. Score 20, this would be the redemption. And these talents of gold now, these talents of gold, what a talent is it means a round of gold. We call them today, we call them coins. Back then they called it a round of gold, a round. And this gold is that which belongs to God anyway. So the work of man, his redemption, is just like a round of gold to God, this circle of gold, that which belongs to him. And this is the account of the levy which King Solomon raised to build the house of the Lord, and his own house, and Millo, and the wall of Jerusalem, and Hazor, and Megiddo, and Gezer. So Solomon's going to use now, he's laying a levy. So we're seeing Solomon is requiring much, much wealth now to run this magnificent palace. We need to pay close attention to this, because this is going to become a big thing later on. And he's using this, and he's building all kinds of places. And we're going to find out. He's built Millo. And Millo means this place, it's filled as a rampart. It's built up. It's like a giant ramp you would build that goes up to the top of a wall of a city that you're trying to get in. It's like an embattlement. It's part of a battle strategy back then. They would build a giant ramp and just come over the wall. And he built the wall of Jerusalem. Well, we know Jerusalem was already a walled city when the Jebusites lived there. They had these 2 giant pillars there that held the gates. And so this wall we're talking about is another wall that goes around the city. And Hazor, and Jerusalem is this place of peaceful teachings. And Hazor means this castle of enclosures, this wonderful place of enclosures. And Megiddo, this place prepared for attack. This is a place where great armies waiting there. They are at this place waiting to ambush. And Gezer. Gezer means a portion divided out. A portion that's set aside for a purpose. And this place that's prepared as a rampart, this is this place, is this castle of enclosures. And this is a place that's prepared for attack. And this is the place that's been divided out for God's judgment. 16, and the Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Gezer, and burned it with fire, and slain the Canaanites that dwelt in the city, and given it for a portion unto his daughter Solomon's wife. So Pharaoh, this one of the great house, this king of the land of enclosures, this king of the land of traps and snares and pits, he went up and he took Gezer, this place that was set aside, this portion that was divided out, and he burned it with fire. And he slayed all the Canaanites that were there, and he gave it to his daughter, who was Solomon's wife. And we'll remember now, Solomon has allied himself to Pharaoh, and he took Pharaoh's wife, or daughter, to be his wife. And Solomon built Gezer and Beth-horon the nether. And this nether means the lower. So there's Beth-horon that's probably up on the hill, and this is the city stretches all the way down to the bottom. And Solomon built Gezer, this place where this was divided out. And Beth-horon is this house of the hole. Even the lower hole, the lowest, the depths of the hole. And Baalah and Tadmor in the wilderness, in the land, 18. And Baaloth means this lord of man in a feminine sense, in a weak sense. In Tadmor, this place where the palm tree is erected. And when I read this verse, in the wilderness, in the land, and this wilderness is always going to be the place where the words drive out. This place of truth, this place of understanding. But when I read this and I hear this Lord of man, this feminine Lord of man in this place where the palm tree is erected, I start to think about Deborah. I start to think about Deborah, where she sat under her palm tree there. 19, and all the stories that Solomon had, and the cities for his chariots, and the cities for his horsemen, and that which Solomon desired to build for his pleasure in Jerusalem, and in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. So Solomon built all these great things. He's built cities for his chariots, these chariots of war, where a king's not supposed to have a great army to himself, and these cities for his horsemen. And he's numbered these great horsemen to himself, and he's not supposed to number these things to himself. And all these things which Solomon desired, built for his pleasure in this place of peaceful teachings. And in Lebanon, this place that was made white for a witness, I refer to as those stones there at the ball. 20, all the people that were left of the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, who were not of the children of Israel. No, these were the descendants of Noah. These were the descendants of the three sons of Noah, and their genealogy is documented in Genesis. These Amorites are the enchanters, these soothsayers, and the Hittites are these descendants of Terah. And these Perizzites are those that live out in an open country, these that dwell openly, and they're vulnerable for attack. And the Hivite are those that declare, they got something to say. And the Jebusites are these of the threshing place. These of the threshing place, they weren't of the children of Israel. We'll remember now in Joshua, God commanded in Deuteronomy, now when you go into this land, drive these out, unless they're going to be a thorn in your side. And they have been a thorn in the side of Israel all the way through. They've tempted them many times and took over, and they've led them astray. They went chasing after these other gods, and that's what God is wanting you to understand. They didn't do according to the law. They didn't obey the law. And when you obey the law, God goes before you and drives out this evilness. He goes in front of you. You got to show him you're on his side. 21, even the children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel were not able to utterly destroy of them, did Solomon raise a levy of bondservants unto this day. So Solomon takes all these nations that were left, and he turns them into slaves. He makes them bondservants, and he sells them into slavery. And this is how he gets his money. He's getting money from this. But the children of Israel, 22, did Solomon make no bondservants. So he didn't do this to the children of Israel, but they were the men of war. He used them for his army, which he wasn't supposed to number to himself, and his servants. And we were told in Deuteronomy the king would do this, and his princes. So he's took them now, and he's doing everything with them, and his captains and his rulers of his chariots and of his horsemen. So he's taken all the children of Israel, as many as he wants and he needs, and he's doing everything, making them to serve under him. And Moses and Samuel told us this was going to happen. 23. These were the chief officers that were over Solomon's work, 550, who bore rule over the people that wrought in the work or labored in the work, that worked the work. And he had 550 people that told him what to do. 500. Now, grace is judgment. Grace is the judgment. God wants you to understand. Grace is judgment. And when God judges these that turn from him, and they do wickedly turn, God judges them. And this is the grace of the law, because that's how God's judging them, by the law which he already made. And they're judged by the law, and this is grace. This is grace. This is God's grace to show you these things, because he loves you and he wants you to turn. 24. But Pharaoh's daughter came up out of the city of David unto her house, which Solomon had built for her. Then he build Millo. So Solomon married Pharaoh's daughter, and Pharaoh is this great house. And this daughter represents an understanding or a teaching that comes from this great house. And Solomon's built a house there, and we'll remember, it was very much like the porch of judgment. And then did he build Millo. And Millo is this place built as a rampart. And this was the city of David. 25. And 3 times a year did Solomon offer burnt offerings and peace offerings upon the altar, which he built unto the Lord, offering thereby upon the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the house. And Solomon had finished the house and built many other things. And we see now 3 times a year, 3 complete now times in a year, this circle of understanding, this loop of the greater light, this golden ring. Did Solomon offer these burnt offerings? And these burnt offerings are those that have to pass through the fire. And these peace offerings are those which have come now and done this on their own. And he's done it now upon this altar that he's built to the Lord. And we'll remember now, God had his own altar. God had his own altar built, and his servant Moses had made it. And this was where the law was. 26. And King Solomon made a navy of ships. And you know, the only person allowed to make offerings is the Levites. All right? And I know everybody goes down to offer their offerings 3 times a year, according to the law that God made. But the king was never allowed to go himself and sacrifice on the altar. 26. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is beside Elo, on the shore of the Reed Sea, in the land of Edom. And this Red Sea, it is the Reed Sea. That is a bad translation, red, because if it was red, it would say the Sea of Edom, because Edom means red, and red because they would show the blood in their skin, to the show of blood in the flesh. This Red Sea, the Reed Sea, reeds grew along the shores thereof, and these reeds were used to make papyrus or paper which would contain the written words of men. And Moses, this is the sea that the Lord parted for the children of Israel. And this Etzion Geber, which is beside Eloh, and Etzion is a spine, the backbone, that which causes it to be erect. And Geber is a strong man, a one of strength. So now, and it's beside Eloh, and Eloh is this several oak trees. And Elon is an oak tree, and Eloh is several oak trees. 27. And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. So Hiram, these of nobility, now these have made this place of nobility, they are experienced travelers on the oceans and these seas, which generally represents the people. And he's going to teach Solomon now, and his men, he sent his shipmen, these men that have knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon, and they're going to teach Solomon's men now how to have a navy. And Solomon, we're going to see, has built these many ships, and to build ships costs a lot of money. And he's built a navy, and he's put men in them, and we're going to see now exaction. He's having to exact on the people now and tax the people and put levies against the people now to pay for all this. And we're going to find this out later. It's all going to come out. The book's going to tell us this. 28, and they came to Ophir and fetched from there gold, 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon. So much gold, much gold. They thirst for gold. The gold is that which belongs to God. And Ophir, this golden ring, this golden circle. See, this continuous golden circle. Year after year, season after season, round and round we go. 400 now, the work of judgment. The redemption around. Talents means round. Round. Redemption goes round. For the work of judgment and redemption, it just goes round and round and round. And in a circle we go through time. God wants you to understand this thing. And this is only the prophecies of these things which to come. This great house. This great house. Oh, this great house that shall be made desolate. For you've turned from the Lord your God, and you've not obeyed the commandments. And society is all the proof we need. I call heaven and earth against you this day as a witness. All right, let's move on. Move on to chapter 10.